All right, let's call this meeting to order, the Westport School Building Committee, November 21st, 2021.
24.
24.
2024?
COVID's over.
COVID's over. Oh, God, thank God. All right, so discussion, an update on the committee. I'll just say a few things, and then I'll turn it over to Jim. But, from our last meeting, more of the same. More meetings with the contractor and the attorney, Zoom meetings, Gale Associates. They have been at the school to do some work with the downspouts. That did get done. Then we had the hole in the gutters for the downspouts was wrong. It was too small. And Greenwood, I believe, the roofing contractor or the gutter guy came back and they did that back in September or maybe early October. So that's been done. It's one of the issues. It's not the answer to the bigger issue with the gutters, but that's been done. Jim and I spent most of the day today up in Boston in mediation?
Yes.
Mediation hearing.
Yeah, meeting with Levy Architects and Town
So
Council.
it was Jim and I and Richard Holland and it was Levy, his attorneys, and some other professionals, his people. I don't know, I think Jim and I both kind of left there feeling the same way as we did when we got there. It doesn't really seem like they're really willing to do much of anything, at least at this point. Jim, you want to chime in on that, or?
Yeah, so Levy Architects said that the downspouts, the holes at the top of the gutters were too small, so those were enlarged. We haven't had any rain events, significant events since then, so we don't know how those perform. Gale Associates still has some concerns with the design. They believe the gutters should have been, the volume of the gutters should have been bigger or more, and the slope should have been a little bit more defined, and there were a couple of issues with the flashing, so that's kind of the disagreement between Gale and Levy that we're trying to work out.
Did anybody do a water test on the thing, after it was opened up a little bit more, to actually flood it, since we haven't had any rain in months? Except today.
They didn't,
An actual water test, I don't know, Jeff, I
I don't
don't
know if
think
they
so.
could do,
Yeah, they can do it.
well, how valuable it'd be with the gutters, right? So I know they've done water tests in areas where they've had leaks.
Yeah, they did, I know they've done water runoff, because, yeah, in some of the tests, the water was running right off the roof, it wasn't even going into the gutter.
Yeah, they can run water tests and
Yeah.
actually simulate whatever rain they want by the volume, and then just let it all come down over one section of the roof
Yeah.
and see how much water is the problem.
But again, the water getting into, overflowing the gutters is
Somebody
one
has to
issue.
pay
It's,
money for that, but,
the bigger problem is the water and the moisture getting behind the gutters and the
yeah,
and
well,
the
when it
wall.
overflows, then it clings on and then it goes into that
Yeah,
that gap between the block and the gutter itself.
we
So-
did, Gail, or I believe it was Gail, had reached out to Greenwood. We did get an estimated price to, I printed it out and I left it at home. Basically to replace the gutters around the perimeter of the building, flashing, and all that, the work associated with that. It didn't really include everything. We got that the other day. That was nine something or other.
Yeah, 900,000.
Steve Agostini saw that. He told us that he thought that was high. So we're reaching out to Stanley Roofing. Stanley?
Yeah, so
Stanley
Agostini's
Roof-
reaching out to.
Yeah, Agostini was reaching out to them, a company they've worked with, to try to get us a better price. We've also told them to reach out to Cape Way Roofing
Yeah, they're
here in town. And I guess apparently Gail did reach out to them not that long ago. And of course, they're very busy like everyone else, but we're gonna reach out to them again. And so we're hoping to get a few more quotes that are, better than that one that we got.
I would suggest that, now that they have the holes open, actually to either, hope there's a real good rainstorm and photograph it, video it to see if it's video it,
Yeah, Jeff, we actually haven't yet, and as a matter of fact, I actually called Manny today and said, hey, how bad is it? Is it, you know, I know it's raining down there, is it, he says, it's raining, but it's not, nothing bad.
Or have a water test, one or the other. You know, before the town goes into spending $500, you know, or $1 million on something that isn't needed, so.
And it is kind of routine to do, as you're suggesting, to do the testing after they do the repair, so I don't think we're out of line doing that. And you don't wanna wait for a storm to find out. It might
Well,
not be the best time to do
I
that.
believe there was a calculation done to size those gutters. I think it was done after the fact. And I believe the calculation showed they were undersized.
Yes,
So,
and I think we have minutes in the meetings, from previous meetings, if the attorney was looking at this stuff, there is a case of, we
There's some,
brought it to their attention a long time
I
ago.
mean, I'm looking for reality then.
Jeff, maybe you know the name of,
I agree with you, but still, I mean, on the original specifications, it says meet all requirements of the national aluminum.
there's an industry standard for gutters
So, and they never did
water,
it then,
and
so
and
what are they
water
doing now?
runoff.
Is it
What's that?
MAC or is it
I forget the name of the
something
an
MAC?
industry standard, Jeff, for
Yeah, it's- that's what
water,
I'm talking
gutter
about.
runoff and
Yeah,
like
yeah, it's all in
pitches
the
and
same
roofs.
place, and
And Gail basically is saying, you know, that gutter needs to be
NEMAC or something
pitched,
like that.
obviously. And one of the things that Jonathan, their team is saying, oh, no, we're excluded from that because of, you know, industry, you know, because it's a flat roof, which is, it's nonsense, doesn't make sense.
But the easiest way is to flood it, as Jeff is saying, and test it. Don't wait for the water to do that on their own, you know.
I mean, supposedly, we're gonna be getting more rain, they said, over the next month, they think we're gonna.
Yeah, but
but
today
who
just
knows?
wasn't the day.
yeah,
Today
who
wasn't
knows?
the day.
No, I thought it was gonna be a real
it's a
downpour, it
light
wasn't.
rain today.
So it might be helpful if you're willing to get more involved in, 'cause this is kind of new to us.
Get
I
my,
don't quite
my
understand.
feet wet, yeah, okay.
If you're willing,
I'm willing to, if you guys give me a call and want me to
maybe sit
help
down
out.
with Brian from Gale Associates and
Yeah.
review what his
Sure,
ideas, that would be great, that'd be helpful.
Yeah, Tom had a question.
just give me a ring.
Tony, David's point is well taken. I mean, I think that should be the starting point, is that they're undersized to begin with. So regardless, I mean, it's an industry standard, it's a math calculation, it's engineering. It's tough to argue against that when there's a standard, and clearly that number, regardless of what the performance is moving forward, but I think that should be our starting point.
The argument we got on that today, Tom, was, again, from the mediator, not from Levy, although that's basically what they were saying. Was basically like, you know, whether you have a 3-inch gutter, 4-inch gutter, 5-inch gutter, if it's holding the water, it's doing its job. It's doing its job. You know, does that mean that you can go ahead and, you know, if 3-inch, and I'm not saying it is, but their argument basically is, what you have there is fine, it's working. Now that we opened up the downspouts, you guys are fine. Why do you want to spend all this money to replace it? To replace basically the same thing that you have there now. But it's not the same. The new drawings, the new specs are different, with the flashing and stuff like that.
You know, if nothing else, because they're arguing that, if we do a water test, then we have proof, right?
All we confirm that it's
Or
working.
we confirm it.
Yeah, that's all we're trying to do.
Jeff, how much, like, what would you get? Like, would you need like a water truck because you gotta dump a lot of water at once, right, type of thing? Like, you can't, it's not something
they
you can do
do.
with a garden hose, right?
No, not quite. Need multiple, but they usually have a rack and then they can water it down, but,
But
you
it's
know, with
something you-
multiple heads
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Gail can actually do one, just to let you know, so.
Thing is, how do you figure out how much water you're gonna get in a rainstorm? It comes back to the engineering.
Well, true.
And
True.
if the engineering says that it's undersized, you know, the test is
thought-
gonna
I mean,
show what the
I-
engineering
I'm-
shows.
I could be wrong, but I thought it was just on the opening in the spout that was
No,
undersized.
the gutter size, and
Gutter
in some
itself.
areas, the water, when they ran some of these water tests, the water was running off the roof, not even hitting the gutter. it
So
was-
that's a whole different issue.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
That's a whole
yeah.
different
In
issue.
some areas, different,
Yeah, yeah. That's a misdesign of where it goes and how far it goes down and the angle of the roof and everything. That's a standard
And that's
thing. If
part of
they
the
miss
plan.
that, then they miss that. That's
Yep.
bad.
Is the gutter design the only open item we have with Levy, or is there something else that we're mediating with them?
there's nothing else that we're mediating with them.
Okay.
You know, are we still having some issues with stuff in the building? Yes.
So the
but-
topic of the mediation though, is this gutter,
Is
the
this
gutter
yes.
system.
Well, it,
And we believe the quote that we have is, if we were to just do it and then sue them later, the quote that we have now is for around 900,000. So we're getting alternate quotes.
Probably a
alternate
few more
bids.
hundred on top of that, Shauna, because it doesn't include a
It
lot,
doesn't inc-
some of, this price just included, the gutters themselves didn't include supervision.
But there's another thing here too, and I don't remember the design, it's been quite a while since I've looked at the drawings. Anybody know how many, like in this section over here, how many downspouts there are?
Well, that's the other thing. So Gail is saying that they don't have enough downspouts, not throughout the
See,
whole.
that's the other thing, is
Yeah,
that you
clearly
can
the-
add, you can
yeah.
add more downspouts, and then the water that's collecting gets out of there before it overflows everything. So there's a number of solutions, and I would say to get a price for that, because that may be actually
No, that's
cheaper.
part of the price, is to add downspouts, because in some areas, we have over 90 feet of run without a
Right.
downspout.
But what I'm saying is do that in lieu of redoing the gutters, because once you put more downspouts, then the capacity through
Right, you get
calculation
by
or
with a
whatever,
smaller gutter, yeah.
may meet it.
Yep.
So-
but this isn't just about gutters, it's also about the envelope, is it?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
the
they're all,
moisture get underneath the
Right.
gutters, in
Because of the
behind
gaps,
the
the
wall.
varied
Yeah,
gaps that we
yeah,
have.
Which is really,
in that
really
area.
the problem, because you
Don't we
could,
have a performance bond with these guys for the roofers? We should. I mean, that was.
yeah, that's not
routine.
the, I
Can't
don't
we
think
ta-
that, it might be the roofer, but I don't think that's the roofer.
Usually the roofing, when you're installing a building, you get a performance bond, and we,
Right, right.
the sooner we act on that, the better
Right.
off we're gonna be. We use that money to do the
Right.
repairs.
so the roofer and the gutters were the same guy, they were Greenwood, right?
Oh, is that true?
They're both Greenwood.
Yes.
Well, who was dealing with the flashing and the,
That's Green-
and the
Greenwood.
closing off of that top part between the block and the gutter, and
That's Greenwood.
it should be
doing that.
flashing, not the gutter that you're attaching that to.
Is
but-
Greenwood contracted to Agostini, or like who are they contracted to?
Agostini.
Agostini
They're
themselves.
hired them.
contracted to Agostini.
So we're going through Agostini. We can't go to them right now unless we went out to bid the full design. We'd have to go through
Right.
the whole procurement process. There could be,
So it's advantageous to us to keep going through Agostini.
Yes, it'd basically be like a change, or it'd be a change to the
order to
contract.
Agostini, and then, but they're still on the hook for whatever they're on the hook for. If we were to do it independently, then you have to incur it's a whole different thing. But, the open, I'm not saying we don't have any punch list items or whatever, but to close out the project, besides the guttering system that you guys are talking about, what are the other
Well,
items
the
that we're in
commissioning,
dispute with?
the commissioning report would have to be signed off on, and I'm not really sure what's on that commissioning report that's still, what's stopping the MSBA from closing the project out?
I mean, it's been over a year, right, since it was open, yes, so usually that's all it is a year, but it's not
they haven't
resolved yet.
filed the paperwork, the closing paperwork with the MSBA,
Because things aren't right yet,
because things aren't right.
yeah, okay.
And then Jim heard this morning that Joe
Joe
Sullivan's gone, left the company, so that's another person that's gone. So that's like, what, this number 6,
Yep,
5 or 6
yep.
from,
Where are we with the
What's
budget
that list?
for the project?
So we've been working on that, and it seems like it should be very simple. We had this discussion the other night, right? But there's a lot of variables in there, and we're trying to pin them down. Right now, I think we have $850,000 remaining after Agostini's pay estimate for 138 and the retainage for 72,000. So if we pay those two, we would have a balance of $849,863. Now, there's a couple of variables with that we're still researching with bond counsel. So out of our loan, we paid the banks and the companies about $337,000. But that should have been included in the premium, so we may have a little bit more than the 850, but I don't know that for sure. And I'm still trying to reconcile with the OPM to make sure that they have the same numbers that we do. And it looks like we do, but I don't have confirmation yet, so.
Jim, what about the feasibility study money?
So the feasibility study, so the MSBA reimbursed us $342,000 of the feasibility study, so that's included in this number. So that's already taken into account.
Originally, the town, money for the feasibility there, that original 7-something, 700, was
Wasn't s-
voted at town meeting, right? It wasn't
Right.
actually part of the
We had to front
MSBA
that anyway.
contract.
Right.
So we have approximately $850,000 remaining of funds in that. So if we were to pay a change order to Agostini to fix the guttering, let's just say we could miraculously make it $850 total, right? Would that would that complete the necessary items, or are there still big items that are still open with any of the suppliers?
That's the big one. I think there's a bunch of little odds and ends that are still, you know, they're still billing us for things that we don't really agree with. There's
Okay.
points of negotiation in there.
And if I may, I think, you know, again, 850,000 would be in that category of the big things, but we still have the auditorium, sound, which is not gonna be a cheap fix. I don't know why, but I'm thinking that would be somewhere around 70 if I had to guess. So there's other stuff. It's just, you know, in terms of making sure that the building lasts for the next 50 years, obviously the envelope is critical.
So, yeah, no, I hear you. So we have 850,000 of our discretionary money that we could still spend, right? But that's why we want these other people to behave for the mistakes that they made or the
Mhm.
things that they did not complete, right?
Yep.
But there is a point at which you have to just stop the project, right? And I'm not sure that we know when that is or where that is. Like, do we still have pending cases? Is it still the?
No, Sean, I think if we get, and Jim and I were talking about this today, I think if, with the attorney, I think if we get a couple of, one or maybe a couple of good prices on, you know, doing these gutters from Stanley or Cape Way, or maybe even Greenwood coming back with a better number or something, that I think it might be the best thing to just go ahead and do that. And then at that point, we can decide whether or not we wanna go after them to, you know, sue them.
Well, we
for
want to
the money.
consider litigation against the levy, I mean, we're in mitigation, right, because we're.
That's
or
one of the, it's one of the
mediation. We're in mediation
requirements.
because we're at least threatening that, hey, this is an option, right? But, or do we have other pending legal action? Is it just this gutter?
No, that's just,
That's
yeah,
the
no,
only-
there's
the other-
nothing
the rest
else.
of it we're
No,
still
we're
trying to
not,
get
no,
them.
we're not going after anyone else as far as, no.
Listen, we're just trying to get them to fix.
This is the big one.
Big repair, the repairs.
I mean, a lot of this other stuff we're just gonna have to swallow. I mean, you know, we're gonna have to take care of it on our own after the fact.
And so we're not gonna go after them for other things, basically.
I mean, it doesn't stop us from going after them for other things. It's,
I thought we had a huge list and then,
We do.
and then,
Well, where's the list?
yeah, we were gonna go after them for that.
what's
if we
that,
didn't do it.
I mean, the big things, I mean, the auditorium sound, the gym floor is, this gym floor is still peeling. And we had them back once to paint it. It's still peeling. Is there something with that floor? Was it installed
But
properly?
that's like a warranty thing,
I was
isn't
gonna
it?
say, how
Or-
long is the warranty period?
1 year, but, well, I don't know on the floor
See, this is
itself,
where it
but-
gets, this is what I mean, and that's why, you know, to anyone building a new building out there, don't open your damn building until every single thing is done, because then you end up with this panoply of different warranty times, and it takes an accountant to figure out what is warranty versus what is, so that floor, 2 years ago, we knew was a problem, and we talked to the OPM about it, and the painters came in, and we said, that's not right. And what we were told at the time by the OPM was, well, let them seal it, and then they'll have to look at it again, which we thought was ridiculous. But that's what we were told. They sealed it, and sure enough, it wasn't done to the standard that it was supposed to.
Also, I mean, I'm not sure where these rank on the list in terms of cost, but I know there's a ladder issue with the auditorium.
You're right, and
There's
the wa-
filtration system,
The water system, the
Bathroom.
water,
The ladder
Bathroom
into the
floor.
water room, yeah.
Yeah.
they fixed it, it's more
the
dangerous.
wall panels, right, the panels,
Yep. We also have a crack
the speaker in one of the 1,500, was it 1,500 area?
hallway.
Yeah.
But there's a crack in the flooring, and it has been from the beginning in the special education room, according to Mrs. Willett. So,
Our project manager should be managing this list, so where are they?
AWOL.
So are we threatening litigation against them? I mean, don't
So,
they
so,
have a
so that was
duty to
also
complete the
brought up
project?
today, and Jim, maybe you can explain it a little bit better, but basically it would be, to blame the OPM.
I'm not blaming the
bad
OPM, I'm
work.
saying the OPM is responsible for
No, I'm
this
saying,
weather.
to go after them and to say, hey, listen, guys, because you didn't do your job, the floors didn't get done right, the gutters didn't get done right, you know what I
Listen
mean?
to what I'm saying, I'm not saying that they should be, I'm saying they should have the list of things that need to be done. The project manager's job is the tasks that need to be completed, right? So regardless
I
of
mean, they
who's
have
at
that. No,
fault,
they-
I'm not saying who's at fault.
They have that, it's,
But, yeah, you're right, you're absolutely right. It's part of their contract, they're responsible for this stuff. But we just haven't had a lot of cooperation from them over the I mean, they will do enough. We call them, they will answer the phone, but we ask them to provide information and it's not there. And then one of the things that we decided early on, the full committee, we discussed it, was that, you know, you don't go after everybody, or we may not be we may not be able to go after everybody, right? Because we may need the OPM to provide us information to discuss.
I'm
with-
not
so-
even suggesting going after them, I'm just saying it's part of their job duties, and
I
so.
agree 100%.
like, and are they saying that they've extended so much that we need to have a contract with them to manage this, like,
Yes,
you,
they
I
worked for us
believe-
for free for years, literally.
right, I mean, they're not making, they're losing money on this job, right?
Yes.
And so, somebody needs to project manage this to completion, and it's nobody here's full-time job to project manage that to completion. So, we're not gonna finish the project, nobody's gonna be happy when we're done, particularly Tom, okay? But we have to finish at some point, right? Or we have to ask for more money. I don't know, but somebody needs to project manage that, so if the project, maybe, I'm not trying to sue the project management company, I want them to engage and help us finish. But it seems like we're trying that and unsuccessful.
I thought we talked about that a year ago, and we put a timetable on it, that if they weren't gonna be more cooperative, then we would take a stronger legal action. And I think that should be in the minutes, probably over a year ago.
Jim, did we talk, did you call, Dan?
I did,
Talk to Dan,
I didn't
right?
get a
Yeah.
response back.
Well, they've had a lot of turnover over
Well,
there, right?
That's part of the
Again,
problem.
and
is
Tony's
it's
absolutely
never
correct,
changed.
because we did talk about it, and I remember we were talking about whether we wanted to go after the OPM or not. And at the time, we had Kevin Sullivan, who was working for CHA. It was one of the first times we were actually seeing some movement in terms of rectifying some of these problems. So we
Right.
sort of backed off, but then Kevin left, and now we're back where we were, even worse, in the sense that they don't want to do anything because they feel that they're not getting any money. But my position is that they're the cause of a lot of this right now, and I don't think they should get a free pass one
Well,
way or another, whatever that means. you know?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I don't think the OPM is the issue. It's the contractor and his subs who gave stuff, built stuff that isn't to spec, isn't to design, isn't to, isn't working. So those are the ones that you go after, because they're the ones that have, that we paid to build it. The OPM is there just to help you out, us out,
I think we need
and to
help.
run it, so.
No,
I know,
we do need
and I
help.
think your point is that we need help, but, I mean, to re-engage them, fine, yeah, we'll just end up paying them money to help us along on this, and maybe that's what we need. Otherwise, we all have to do it somehow, or somebody in the town has to do it to
And we
pursue
don't have
this.
the expertise to do it, right?
No.
We
Yeah,
don't have
so-
the time or the resources. or
Right,
the
so,
expertise.
That's why you hire an OPM.
that's why you hire, yeah,
But we had this discussion over a year ago, and it was pretty clear the direction we were gonna take.
yeah.
And it was, we had a timetable, and as long as we saw some cooperation at that point with the OPN working on the contractors, we were okay. As soon as that stopped, we were taking legal action. I thought we took a vote on it. And that was over a year ago.
Was.
So,
Yeah, I
at
mean,
this
I
point, I don't know, what do you suggest, Jim, at this point?
Yeah, sounds like you're suggesting legal action. Is that the way you want to go?
Well, from my perspective, I'm coming, every 6 months I come in and hear a little bit of what's going on. I'm just suggesting you guys are on the ground. I want to support you folks. But from my perspective, for when I'm seeing it, we're kind of rehashing the same stuff. As Tom said earlier, you cut the ribbon, you buy it. And it's too late at that point to get the attention of anybody. They're on to the next job. The horses left the barn. We all argued about that, but the decision was made to do that. So we're in the building, and we lost some leverage. But let's not, the longer we wait, the more leverage we're losing.
So, I mean, I think that's where we are now. The mediation today has to be done. It's in the contract, so you have to go to mediation before you can sue. So this was step one in that direction. And again, I mean, we've had conversations with Agostini, with Steve, and, you know, when we talk to them, Steve always seems willing to help and do what he can, so, you know,
That's a
we
good
kind
guy,
of.
bad guy.
That's why you need a contract and follow the law,
You know,
rules of the contract.
Levy, forget it, we haven't, he's just.
I think one of the things that I think the two of you are saying, we have mediation, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's only on the gutters so far, right? That's what that meeting was all about?
Yeah, the Gale.
The roofing system.
Stuff was in the
I
Gale
would not,
report,
I would
yeah.
not throw out all these other things that have to be done too. I mean, when you're in mediation, you're not just talking about the biggest issue, you're talking about every one of the issues, and that's a lump sum at the end. You know, remember we talked about this, coming
Yes.
up with a lump sum for every one of these of how much money it's gonna take, and that's what we're gonna go after you guys for, or you're gonna fix it. So I don't think we should abandon that necessarily. I mean, the floor in the gym, I mean, I don't know how to fix that. I mean, do you have to tear up the whole floor and start over again because the moisture's coming up through and that's what's causing everything to peel? You know, it could be that. I don't really even know. So, you know, again, I don't think we should give up on that list that we had, and we should probably resurrect that list and then present that, you know, at the next arbitration meeting, that we're talking about all of this, guys, not just the one thing. So
And we
that's-
did, we brought up other
Personally.
issues today during that,
Yeah.
yeah, that's not.
But I get the point that the project has to be paid for at some point too. There's some pressure on the town, you know, get this done as well. So I got you, Jeff, because I gotta tell you, I think a lot of this problem stems from the OPM, the revolving door of OPMs.
Yeah,
That was
I agree with
an
that.
absolute nightmare. I mean, to a point where our people literally had 15 minutes with the FF&E people, 15 minutes. And that's why when the cabinets came in, the casters were wrong, and they didn't fit underneath the built-in counters. This is just a small part of what happens when your OPM
Right.
isn't on top of it. And I don't know, I don't like the fact that they've sort of Pontius Pilate this thing, and I think they're a big part of it personally.
Well, I think the mistake that we are making right now is we don't have professional full-time people engaged to help us resolve this.
Right.
And I'm not saying necessarily, I haven't thought this through completely, but we cannot be going to a $1 million plus mediation with a volunteer and a guy who's working on it when he has free time. As great a job as you two are doing, you're not the right people that are gonna get this, because the whole value of the whole
Right.
punch list, somebody needs to put that together. You know, what of other, the advising counsel that you would get, like, I don't, you know,
Exactly.
that you would get from someone who does this all the time. So I don't know, like, I mean, it sounds like, I think we're right to be unhappy with the OPM that we had before, and I don't know if it's to kind of like light a fire under them to get them to re-engage and help us finish this out, or if we need to hire somebody else to help us, but I think part of the money that we have available needs to be a resource to help bring this to an end, because you're right, we've been in the same meeting for 2 years now, and, you know, we're trying to get the building solved, so I don't know what that looks like exactly, about what type of resource we need to help us finish.
So,
We have a lot of state officials that are supposed to be a resource to the local town when you build a school. The school building assistance program is based on that. I haven't heard anybody talk about them and what their participation is. Are they participating? Are they helping us? They have the expertise. They have full-time people. That's their job.
Well, is MSBA?
MSBA.
they're aware of the issues that we have.
But are they providing us guidance and counsel here?
I mean, I think
Very,
they've,
very limited.
they've had conversations with people, but
Do they still have these people on their preferred list when they're building new schools?
Well, I mean.
That's the
we-
first thing you do
they're
right away.
building- Oh, yeah, they're still working, yeah,
Well,
yeah,
it's-
yeah.
This
He's
is
working on
kind
6
of,
schools right now.
No, they're,
That's an
they're
embarrassment
very
in
much-
itself.
They're very much aware of our issues and the issues we had with the architect. They're very,
At one
So
point, didn't we have a
But it
lawyer
does-
at
We
one
want
point?
somebody to tell
But they
us how
say
much-
it's your contract.
Didn't
you
we
know.
have a lawyer at one point come in and
So
guide
I
us?
just want to say one thing with the mediation, right? We went in there with professionals today. We've hired Gale Associates. They've analyzed the roof.
Right,
They've been
right,
out here a
right.
number of times inspecting. They've come up with a preliminary design that they've worked with Agostini. Agostini came back to them and said, maybe we change it a little bit, we do this. They've gone out and gotten bids. They're gonna get some more bids to see what that comes out. But we went in with Gale Associates representing the town
Okay,
today. yeah.
But, okay,
It
so.
wasn't me.
thank you.
Yeah, it isn't Jim and I saying, hey, this is what you
No,
guys
But
need
this
to
is-
do.
this is a good
I
point.
didn't mean to
No,
suggest, I'm
no, no,
I'm
no.
not saying you guys aren't doing a bang-up job, I'm saying that you might need.
But this
more.
is a
And I
good
think we
point.
do need to.
This is a good point, because they are engineers. They will bring you through what to do with it and what works and doesn't work. What they can't do, and they don't do, is they don't guide you, a client, along in a mediation process. They don't guide you along for all the other, 89 things, beyond that, the gutter. They don't do that. I mean, they're there to give you engineering, professional advice of what you have and what you need, and what may work or not work, and review those things.
Jim,
So,
if we- if
it's
we-
great we have them, don't get me wrong, that's the right thing to
If we were
do.
to hire another OPM, which is what I would suggest, is that something, would you have to go out for bid for that, or we'd have to do all that?
I think so. Now, proposals, request for qualifications.
Didn't we have a lawyer in here once, and
He did, he was with us today.
There was, okay, so we had,
Oh,
we
yeah,
had
yeah, we
counsel
were,
today.
yeah, we
And-
were represented. This was
and is he a lawyer that is extremely
Contract law.
knowledgeable
Yeah,
on-
school building projects and,
on mediations, and
yeah.
so I think, when's the last time we had a meeting with him, not just on the one thing, but on all these things, and to say, this is enough, we're done. We are done, we wanna end this thing, and either we get money for it, or, whatever.
So one of the things we need is we need a list of outstanding items. We've had
Yeah, we have
lists-
that.
No, we
No,
don't.
where?
We do
Have you
not.
seen it?
We've asked for.
We've
I've
sent
had-
it on numerous occasions.
I've had, a couple of lists were sent to me this past week. Many of the items on that list I know have been completed. The list is 2 years old. We need an updated list with the major concerns. And it's
perfect.
difficult, right? I mean, everybody's busy, but that's what we need. If we get that and say, these are the priorities, these are the 5 things that we need to get addressed, these are the things that maybe we can live with, these are the things, that we're gonna have to deal with maintenance issues. But until we get that,
How fast can we do that list?
Who would
Who's
know,
responsible for the
who
list?
would be the
So this
best
is
people to
technically
go
the
through that?
OPM that does it, right? He follows up with the school tells them the problem, they keep a running list. They do have a running list, but the OPM's list is outdated by probably a year and a half, right? So the school is gonna have to,
I can sit with Kim, and we certainly have, she knows what's been done and what hasn't been done. I mean, that's what I found out, for example, the floor on the special education classroom isn't done the way it's supposed to be done. So I can most certainly sit with Kim and see if we can update that at this point. And
I mean, yeah, I mean, those major 5, 6, or 7 things, whatever they are, Tom, the floor,
Basketball
the
court.
water system, the ladder,
Yep.
the gutters.
Yep.
Those things, that list, that's not that long.
Well, in 7 days, we ought to have a list, right?
It shouldn't be a problem.
So, let's say 7 days from now, Thanksgiving, whatever, right after that, we've got a list, we're ready to go. What would be our next step?
Well, if we want to hire an
Well, we might not
OPM,
need to hire anybody, what's the next step? Like, if you figure out what you need to do, then you figure out if you need help doing it.
I would suggest our next step would be, we get on the phone, you gotta have a relationship with the school building authority group. We got a list, Tom, and see if they can give you some guidance legally with their own people
We
up
had
there.
that lawyer.
I've actually spoken to people in the MSBA.
Yep.
They're very reticent about getting into the middle of a legal quagmire as they see it, and.
Well, no, they're giving advice to a local school district, which is their responsibility, and they're in charge of the school building assistance program. That's why it exists.
Yeah, I really do believe we paid an OPM a good amount of money to do their job. They didn't do their job.
Yep.
We have plenty of evidence to suggest that the revolving door of project managers resulted in an inconsistency in terms of follow-up, which has led us to where we are today. That's just-
And, say all this true, okay? This is where we are right now.
Yep.
So, however we got here.
Right.
What do we need to do right now
Right.
to go for it? So that's the issue.
Right, so you know, I think we were trying to be nice to the OPM, because again, at the time, we were so grateful to have even somebody who was seeming to move the needle, that we didn't, but I think if Kevin Sullivan had never been there, I think this group would have said, we need to go after the OPM too, in particular Sean Sweeney from CHA, because he's the owner, and it was their company that had this revolving door that, I mean, look at Matus, I mean, he just sold his company in the middle of it. I
So,
mean-
so let's take it back, because I think this is where you're coming from. Do we have the people in-house? And it's all on you and your people. Do we have the people in-house to be able to go through a list and to verify whether it's been done or not?
In a
And you
half-
can say no, you
In a
can
half,
say no.
in a half day, we've lived it, this is a
Yeah,
lived
yeah, no,
experience.
Yeah,
Okay.
we should, yeah, we
This
can-
is- So then-
they know what's been fixed and
Okay.
what
And
hasn't.
if you know
Because-
anything about Kim, she's unbelievably organized with her list.
Because
It's
the point,
incredible.
the point is that if we don't, then we go out and we get another OPM. We get somebody to help us get through this, like we did before. You know, get a Sullivan or whoever it may be to help us. So as long as we can get that list going, then that's the first step, and we should
And
have that in
And I think we need to go to
codified.
I think we need to go to the current OPM that's still on the hook and tell them what we want them to do. Like, we need to give them specific
Yep.
instructions. We want you to collate this list, we want you to close that, well, I don't know what the things are, but we need
Sean,
to
the
tell them,
thing
we
about
want you
the
to do
current,
these three things.
as long as we can get the information from them, I think that's the only thing I would want from these guys. Because what they're gonna say is this, they're gonna say, hey, listen, Westport, we've done so much work for you, you guys haven't paid us a dime in 3 years, you know, like you said, we're losing money here. What do you want us to do? All right, we'll come back, give us $100,000. And to be
You
honest
know
with you,
what,
I
I
don't wanna
welcome
give them a
that, because
penny.
then we would at least negotiate that, we
Yeah,
would
but I
have a
don't want,
term.
I wouldn't want,
I'm
I'd
not
rather give
saying I
that
would
money to
pay
someone
it.
else.
I'm not saying I would pay it, I'm saying we
Maybe
have
you're-
to.
They
we-
could've
we
done their
can't just
job the
keep
first
spinning
time,
the
like
way
Tom
we're
said.
spinning now.
Maybe I wasn't
I think
100,
we-
maybe I wasn't 100% clear. When I said, do we have the people? So there's a number of steps we have to take. First, we have to get the list. We have to verify that it absolutely has not been done and it needs to be done. Then we have to take that list and we have to turn it into money.
Yes.
And that's where an OPM will help, because I don't think anybody here will do that, because that takes a lot of time. And then, once you get that, then you can start talking to the lawyer and talk about going into a suit or
And
mediation.
who is it?
Or,
Is it-
or talk to the lawyer about the roof performance bond, warranty on the floors.
This is what
You go-
OPM should be able to help us with.
Exactly, yeah,
Who's
but
bonded, where
I
do we
do
have this
think
thing?
the state could help us and just procedurally, some of those kinds of things that you're talking about. We've got to set deadlines and start working on those, or the longer we wait, we're losing it,
So I think,
losing the opportunity to do that.
I think you're right, Sean, I think we need to get an OPM. I do,
If I could just,
to help us through this.
you know, we also don't even know where we are in commissioning, right? I mean, we really don't have a grasp of where we're at this
I
point,
mean,
right?
Oh, you're-
that's out there somewhere, what needs to be signed off
Your
on.
But that was-
maintenance people would know that.
Well, but that, you know, again, that was another part of this project where anybody who served on this committee saw the hostility between the Agostini people to a point where I was actually a little uncomfortable at some of the dialogue that was going on in the middle of a professional meeting between them, to a point where I don't know if our commissioning person went, I don't need this crap, and didn't do what, you know, I don't know, but I think we need to get that information as well.
I mean,
you know?
some of that can come from, the OPM can organize all this, but then our engineers can step in and tell you where the state is on that too. You know,
I think
for
we
our-
should hire an OPM, but I think it should be someone else, no, I don't.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
but
unfortunately-
even to hire somebody, you need to outline what you want them to do. You need to have
Yeah.
the steps of what I don't know what the steps are. I don't, like, I completely agree. I mean, we need the list, and we need the value of the list. And then we need someone to help us sort through who's responsible for what are our mechanisms for paying this, or, you know, for getting these completed, who's paying for what, and whatever else we need to do to close out the project. They should know,
See,
but you're gonna have to list it in order to go out for bid, right? So, and you're also gonna have to listen to, I mean, if I were the OPM and Agostini and Levy, I'd be watching this recording right now, and because of this open meeting. But like, we need to know, in order to go out for an RFP, you have to say what you want them to do. You
So-
can't just say, we want you to
Yeah,
project manage.
I think because it is an open meeting, we need to have a list in 7 days. We need to have an idea of what our options are, and that is potential litigation, which would be in session that I think the committee has to decide what the route's gonna be. You don't do that publicly, because certainly they're gonna tap into that, and they're entitled to it. But we need to protect the resources of the town on this, and if we have warranties, if we have performance bonds, we need to tap into those if necessary. But that's behind closed doors before we talk about that strategy
So,
publicly.
yeah, you said something that brings up another good point. Going out to bid. The idea here with an OPM is to not really go out to bid. It's to go out to find out how much this thing is gonna
No,
cost.
no, I'm talking about an RFP.
I know, but, so if the OPM comes in and helps us put this all together and gets, architects or engineers, or however they do it, to assign a cost to each one of these things that need to be repaired, that's what we need. Then the decision is, do we
What do we do with it?
litigate?
Yeah.
Or do we go out to bid to get it done? I don't think this is the meeting to talk about that.
Yeah.
But those are the two paths.
So
That
I
we
don't
have to
think we have
determine.
enough information. I think we need the list to
Right.
see how big a hill we've got to climb. We need the list first, and once we've got the list, we can decide, all right,
Right.
the
That's
the
fine by me.
gymnasium floor is one issue, the speakers in the auditorium, and the roof. The other things are, we can either live with, or,
Yeah, whatever we come up with, you're
right,
right.
whatever we can do.
So
But
just-
that- we
scenarios.
need that list.
Just remember that whatever OPM, if we hire someone, comes in and does all that,
Yep.
they're not gonna be able, they're not gonna make the contract or the architect do anything.
No,
Basically, they're basically gonna say,
no,
well, they put a dollar to it, they're gonna say, well, you guys got, $1 million worth of stuff that needs to be done.
Yep.
How do you guys wanna do that,
and then hopefully
Well,
that
have to,
person,
which
no,
is
no.
what we
We
do
need
with
someone to
no,
help us
that-
coordinate the mechanisms that we have to address each of
Yeah.
the issues, right?
They gotta take us through the point until we make that decision on which way to go. And if we choose to go in the build it ourselves for some of them, maybe not all of them, but some of them, then they can help us with that. To send out an RFP, to figure all that out, and to get bids and review them and whatever we need to do, and they can guide us. The lawyer will take us, if we go that way, the lawyer should be taking us on that end.
Yeah, so maybe we should
Guiding
set up a
us.
meeting in the next week or two, executive session, bring the OPM in and the attorney and see.
Well, we
where
need the
things stand.
list, and we need to, I think,
So-
List we
The
have,
other
we'll
thing,
have
the
those.
other thing
Yeah.
with the OPM we gotta keep in mind is we gotta close this project out, right? We gotta close it out with the MSBA.
right,
Our current OPM
and that's
has,
also what the OPM does.
the OPM has, the current OPM has all that information. To bring somebody in off the street is gonna be
No,
a
I'm,
challenge.
I'm not suggesting that we, like,
And listen, I
I'm
think-
just suggesting we need some
We need
project
help.
management help
Yes.
in this area, not necessarily OPM of the whole, I don't know what that looks like exactly, but I'm a little more generous than Mr. Vieira over here because December and November are crazy.
Right.
We're at the end of November, it's a holiday, you got December holidays, people are gonna be taking vacations. My recommendation would be get whatever list we have from 2 years ago into the hands of Tom and his team. They can go through the list. I don't think we should try to regroup until January, but I think that when we do regroup in January, that we need to know what we're looking at. We can't just be keep throwing examples out of the air. We have to be looking at that. And if we have new bids for we know the high ticket item, and if we have the alternate bids for that, that's good. And then maybe we could put together a list, maybe we should be thinking about the list that we would put together for an RFP for help project managing this.
You know, the only,
David wants to root for engineers, I'm rooting for project.
the only difference that I would have with what you just said, Sharon, Shauna, is that there's probably a warranty on the floor, and there's a timetable in terms of use. We're going through another season with it. At some point, we're gonna lose the opportunity to get money back for the warranty. The roof should have a performance bond on it. Usually they're 25, 30-year performance bond. Each year, each month, you lose down the percentage of what you're gonna get on it. Just those two things alone, the biggest deal is the roof. If we get a performance bond that's covering the repairs on a roof, we go out to bid and we get the thing done. And then we'll send the bill to whoever that didn't perform. And they can argue about that in the courts.
So,
I don't
Has
think,
the team, Tom, been keeping track of the warranties?
Well, that's,
warranty items?
again, this is part of the craziness, Sean, because again, now I haven't prepped Tony up. Tony, you have a rough idea of what we would need on the technology end, if that include the auditorium and stuff like that with the sound? You got the number from,
So auditorium sound would be about $70,000 to $75,000.
now, I didn't prep him on that. What I'm saying is, I'm using that as a point that we've got all this stuff. We've been living this for a long
Alright, so
time.
let's
I literally have a quote for that.
Put the list, if we think we have a quote or a bid, let's put that on the list. If we think it's the warranty is gonna last until whatever date, let's put that, you need to gather the information on the list. But I think you're right, the list needs to include more than,
right.
if we have bids or costs or estimates.
And
let's
what the
include
warranty
that.
says for
What
each of these
If
items.
something, if
Yeah.
we know the warranty's gonna expire in September because it's 2 years or whatever, then.
And what the problem is as well, because even after, we've had sound issues in the auditorium from day one,
Yes.
right? And I know the architect came in and did some sound testing and disagreed and said, no, it meets the requirements. So if it meets the requirements and we want something better, that may
What'd
be
he
on our
say?
dime.
What'd he say? No.
I know that's a joke, but that's not quite true.
Okay,
When he came in, it was both the architect and the designer of the auditorium with the sound system itself. And they were supposed to tune those speakers perfectly to go back to the baffles. Those baffles are supposed to have insulation in them.
They do not.
They were removed for whatever cost savings or for whatever other reason. That would have been the perfect solution. So
Been
we're
perfect,
already
but
at a deficit because of that.
they did say it met the requirements, so at least that's what they told me.
Okay.
And if we want it better, let's get it better, I'm all for that, but these are things that we gotta look at going forward.
And that's what we need some help on, because you've got that knowledge of how that took, you've got the other side of who's saying what. But there are some things, like the floor, the gym floor should be a pretty simple one.
Yeah.
The roof should be a pretty simple one,
Tony,
and
if
again,
I
that's
may-
a big cost.
Gym floor should be a simple one, but it's not. And it's not because apparently
Good.
they used a different width of board, because at the time this was being done, it was the height of the pandemic and we were having challenges with supply chain. So they used, from what I understand, a
It went
different.
from a regular standard
Now,
2-inch
now,
board
to
to a
what
1-inch
degree
board.
that should be different from a normal or the standard, that's where I don't have that.
But there's still a
background.
warranty on a gym floor. And there's a time frame that we have to step forward to say, this doesn't meet the standard, and we can use the warranty funds to cover that.
So
The
the gym-
performance bond on the roof is a gigantic one, I would say.
Yeah.
I mean, you just put a roof on the elementary school, you got a performance bond on it, I would assume.
Yes, we
So
did.
if you get water in the next 6 months, it's gonna be different than water in the next
We had a
6
small
years.
item and they immediately came and took care of it.
That's what I'm talking about.
the
You get
problem
their
with a
attention.
performance bond is, that's typically from the roofing manufacturer.
It's a
And
failure of the
they're gonna
material.
say that there's nothing wrong with the material, it's an installation thing.
Well,
So
then
that-
we go on record legally with, somebody arguing with the architect and the design or whatever. But we have to do that. If we go back 4 or 5 years, we have minutes that talk about the problem with a flat roof in the area in the northeast and doing it when he was suggesting this is a design. And we talked about the spouts and the idea of getting the water, collecting on the roof and how fast it goes off,
Also,
so. We got it. We
can't
gotta
make
have
$10
somebody
million
argue that case.
Overprice. They, for free, redesigned the roof. They clearly didn't give it enough attention. We can't go backwards from this
Yeah,
point.
we know there's problems.
You
we
gotta
work
count the
on.
losses too, I understand what you guys are saying, but let's not assume they're all our losses. I
Oh,
don't
no.
think they are as
I'm
a
just saying,
town, you know?
You're saying the,
No.
the performance bond is gonna cover it. I think you're just gonna have the roofer pointing at the installer, the roof manufacturing company who owns that bond. They're gonna be pointing at the
They
installer.
should have been doing that 2 years ago. When we first had a leak on the track, we should have had them engaged. And we tried to, but other people were taking care of it supposedly, I don't know, but you need action in this kind of stuff.
We had a number of people come and look at things and try and fix them,
I mean, they did come and do the floor. It's just same issues happening again.
That's
And
why
again,
you
what
have
was
warranties,
stunning-
that's why you have performance bonds.
Well, that's, what was stunning was when we pointed it out before they put the sealer on there, and instead of fixing it before they put the sealer on, they said, this is our OPM, you've gotta let them seal it, and then identify that it's not to standard. It's beyond stupid, but,
Well, when the OPN tells us we haven't paid them, that's one of the reasons we haven't paid them.
right,
Well,
You know,
they-
it's-
and that's some false, we paid the OPM everything that was in their contract, and their contract states that they're supposed to work this thing through the end.
Yep.
So, as far as I'm concerned, they're still on the hook. They just got paid before all the work was done.
I'm completely with
even-
Jim, I think,
yeah,
good.
we even extended their contract and gave in, I don't know if it was $40,000 or $25,000 so they could help us get through the punch list. So we even did that, and
Yeah.
we're still not there. So,
Yeah.
when I talked to the OPM and they say, well, we haven't been paid in 2 years, I said, well, you haven't finished the job yet, right?
Perfect.
But that doesn't mean we're getting the job finished.
Nope.
And you know, I guess my point here is, we gotta move forward. You know, we can
Yep.
talk about things from the past, but we gotta find a way to get solutions and
So-
move forward.
7 days, let's have a list that we can work with,
Yep.
and then let's put it in action.
Okay. Do we have other items? Because I want to not miss those.
Yeah, I've been there
Tom, anything
before.
you want to add to your report, general building conditions items?
Today we had to do an evacuation of the building. We had a gas smell. After a lot of troubleshooting, we found out that the problem really was a technology problem. And it was in the programming of the systems. And what happened was, apparently and we were completely unaware of this, that the program was set to, on the fourth week of November, to shut the building down because we have Thanksgiving. I don't particularly think that's a good idea because, of course, we have a 5-week November right now. And so after a lot of troubleshooting, Tony worked with the company and Zenergy, and they've removed that. The building just stays on, period. I don't know why they would have done that to begin with, because
Oh, so
the
it's
way,
a program and that never got changed?
they set it up 3 years ago, apparently. And so, the problem, of course, is that this building is used so much that there's no reason to shut it down at this point. So just keep it going, and is that about right, Tony, from what you received? Right.
So unfortunately, the BMS only controls the systems, but electricity is still on. Server rooms still need AC, but when, BMS does AC, when they turn off the AC, server rooms overheat, shuts off other systems, thermal overload. And that's what caused all of these different various problems.
So
Now,
it's
again-
solved now, right? We
We
think.
think it is until we discover the next.
Until next Thanksgiving?
But, oh,
I hope-
Somebody probably thought they were being clever by
But there
doing
may be
that.
other settings, so we have to go through that and fine tune.
That's the problem with these systems, they're too clever, that's the problem.
so,
That's true.
I feel confident, but at the same time, I don't wanna
Okay.
dismiss some of the mystery.
All right.
So at least it was addressed, and we'll see, time will tell.
Yeah.
Okay.
the other thing, Tony, is that we do have a mock-up of the cabinets for our awards that are sitting in the old school. And,
Let's approve these, Jim, these are all here, these invoices.
Yeah.
just take a look
Yes.
at that.
Gale Associates,
Cabinets are
KP Law, and fire equipment. That fire equipment, was that the balance for that panel movement? Was that
I looked at it, said,
You know.
Tom, the fire one, what was that?
device test, labor,
Yeah, if you remember, we had water penetration on one of
so
the
this is
panels.
this is part of that, okay.
Right.
All right, so is there a motion for those?
So moved.
And this is what-
Is there a
Second.
second? Any discussion on those
Make
invoices?
5 brand new ones. They
All
got
in
them
favor?
modified.
Aye.
They
Aye.
have to- So that they match the 5 here. And then-
All right, Tom, go ahead and tell us about the
Yeah, so obviously.
trophy cases.
Yeah, a lot of interest in the community to have the awards that are sitting in the old school, and rightfully so. And unfortunately, we didn't have enough cabinetry. Made a call to Diamond, spoke with Manny Patello, department head of the carpentry and cabinet program. He graciously is taking on doing some new cabinetry, and it's going to be a combination of making 5 new ones, and then 4 of them that we currently have, he's going to retrofit them so that they all match. We've also contacted Glass Company because they can't do that. So the total cost between the new ones and the redoing of the old ones is, they've got a cost of 18.5 there. I would suggest to the committee that we boost that up to about 22 in the event that a piece of glass is broken or something like that, because obviously Diamond isn't going to.
200 or 1,000?
1,000.
22,000.
I apologize, 22,000. Well, it's 18.5, but what I'm saying is up to, in the event that they come up with something that happens in
So you
it.
don't have to come back.
I
Right.
make a motion that we support that, to the limit that Tom had talked about.
Is there a second?
Second.
Yeah, great,
And
great job.
just for
Just discussion.
Yeah, discussion. So just clarify so that everybody knows, and I know, because I actually do have this question. Why are we not designing these to match what's there so we don't have that extra cost?
Because that's actually nicer looking, and for the cost that was, if we had to actually purchase that the way we did with FF&E,
Yeah.
the cost would have been way through the roof. And, you
And
know,
we're not
again,
paying,
this is,
we're not paying labor, we're just paying
we're
materials.
not. And the other thing is,
So-
it's going to take up a huge part of that wall, and we want it to look uniform and,
Yeah.
and so, for the relative, you know, and
So
I.
it's 2,500,
yeah,
well,
25
2,000, that's all.
And
Yeah,
Tom,
two.
these are big trophy cases.
Oh, yeah, I mean, if you, again, I have the mock-up for anyone that wants to take a look at them. Jeff, would you be kind enough to just
Want me to
give us a
show that
showing?
first? Can you zoom in on that? There you go, everybody.
And that's a big
It
community
has a
positive.
Vanna
Good
White
job,
flavor
Andy.
to it, excellent
Yeah, no,
job.
That's high-tech stuff.
Yeah. And again, I'm extremely grateful to them for,
I think that's a great idea, Tom. It's a community project, it brings everybody back, the
I love that
families and so
aspect of it.
forth, go for
we
it.
need these awards in the school. And
Well,
it's-
yeah, it's part of the community. You
It's
know,
what brings
taking
people
pride
in.
within the school.
Yeah, I mean,
Go
you
back
know,
generations in some of them probably.
and I've got Michelle Repose's dying to show everybody the trophies that she got when she was here.
Oh, you
So.
went back that far?
Yeah, we're not gonna go.
Well, you know, Tony, we have so many of them that we may have to like make a cutoff of 19 whatever, you know?
I know.
All right, any further discussion on that?
Yes, so, hate to be the Debbie Downer, but we may not have enough money to do the gutters. I don't know if we should be spending $22,000 on something else at this point. I think it's outstanding. I think we should look maybe for another funding source. Maybe we could request ARPA funds, but that's my thought.
All in favor?
Aye. And I didn't necessarily say the source of funding. I mean, if there's other options, as Jim's saying, we'll try to go for it. We might even get community funding to help support it if necessary.
Yeah, I don't really, I want the trophies out here. I'm getting a lot of people
Right.
calling, and rightfully so. They want to see the trophies. They don't want to be forgotten.
Yeah, it's just bringing the community together a little bit.
Agreed, yeah.
They get in the building and they can associate it with that.
All right, let's move on. Item C.
Jim, for nays.
One nay, I'm sorry. I feel bad, but I think
Motion
it's a great
passed.
project.
The motion passed.
We're good.
Request authorized school building committee chair, superintendent, town administrator to approve monthly invoices for Gale Associates and KP Law. Jim?
Second?
How much money are we talking about there?
Gale
2,
Associates right
3,
now, we probably
4.
$5,000 to $10,000 more
Total?
without coming before another proposal with you. And then KP Law, we were with them today for, must put 8 hours in, 16 hours, it could be 20 hours. I'd say, why don't we say up to $15,000? Is that,
I like that. I'll amend my motion. I think it was my motion.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And then review and approve minutes from the school building committee meeting of August 15th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And with that,
I have to abstain, I wasn't there, I don't believe.
we'll adjourn. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.